Well, that was one, I think, important step in understanding what's the function of mirror neurons, which are located in the parieto-frontal circuit, because these neurons describe actions. And when we discovered them in the monkey, we have a lot of discussion with friends, with Marc Geleroy in France, Michael Arbib in America. What could be the function? And we were somehow uncertain. It's imitation or it's understanding. Imitation is somehow simpler. Well, it seems the more reasonable thing. You have something which you transform from vision to motor. That should be for imitating. But monkeys are very poor imitator, and most ethologists think they don't imitate with their hand. So it should be action understanding. But how to prove it? So we said, if the same neurons fire both when an action is represented in visual modality and in auditory modality, so what the neuron says, what is going on in the world. So the transformation from different modalities to motor format imply that the same output and therefore the same information is produced by those neurons. And since they code the goal of the motor act, you understand the goal of action done by others. So once the people ask me to what the mirror neurons in this parieto-frontal circuit does, I think there are two questions here. What do they code when they are activated by myself doing something? And we know that they don't code movement, but they code the goal of the movement, what we now call motor act. So that's a movement. When you stimulate TMS with the motor cortex with transcranial magnetic stimulation, you have this type of thing. That's our movement. But when I grasp an object, when I grasp this bottle, this movement has a goal. So what neuron in premotor cortex in general code is the goal. So when I see somebody doing the same action, I transform this movement, this motor act, into a goal that you try to achieve. That's why I think it's goal. Now, why I see your goal, I think the only explanation is because I understand your goal. And if I see the action described in another modality at the neuron fire, it implies that they code exactly the goal. So an example which I do often in my conferences, let's imagine that you are in your bed and you hear stepping, somebody walking. So you recognize the action. So the same neurons which recognize the action when you walk recognize the action when they hear. So what you understand is it's the action, not the movement. That's this does not imply that mirror neurons, especially humans, cannot code movements. We think they code also movements, and that's another mechanism which is involved in imitation. But the basic, the ancient, evolutionary, most ancient aspect is not movement, but goal, understanding the goal of what the other people do. But I am talking about the parieto-frontal because then they are mirror neurons in other, so in the emotional centers, they have completely different function, of course.